The discussion around the Yankees right now is getting really interesting, especially when you start talking about the future of some of these young players and whether the organization should lock them into long-term deals early in their careers. There's always that debate between taking the risk early and potentially getting a bargain later, or waiting and paying a much bigger contract if the player becomes a superstar. And this is something the Yankees historically have not always rushed into, especially compared to other teams around the league that try to buy out arbitration years and secure players long-term before their value explodes. The Yankees usually prefer to wait, evaluate, and then make their move when they are absolutely sure about the player's long-term value. When you look at young players coming up through the system, there's always that temptation to commit early, especially when a player shows flashes of brilliance in the beginning of his major league career. But baseball is a sport where development is not always linear. A player can have an incredible rookie season and then struggle the following year once pitchers adjust, once expectations grow, and once the pressure increases. That is why teams sometimes hesitate to offer massive long-term deals too early, because the sample size is still small and the risk can be very high if the player does not continue developing at the expected pace. At the same time, we have seen across Major League Baseball that more teams are willing to take that risk now. They sign young players to long-term deals that cover arbitration years and sometimes even free agency years. And if the player turns into a star, those contracts become absolute bargains. That strategy has worked very well for several organizations, especially teams that do not spend as much money in free agency and instead rely on locking up their young core early. The Yankees, however, operate differently because they usually have the financial power to keep their stars later anyway, which changes the way they approach these negotiations. Another big topic that always comes up when talking about the Yankees is the farm system and the value of prospects, especially when trade deadlines start getting closer. Every season, there are rumors, discussions, and debates about whether the Yankees should trade top prospects for established major league talent to make a push for the postseason. This is always a complicated decision because prospects represent the future, but established players can help you win right now. Finding the balance between building for the future and competing in the present is one of the hardest things for any organization to manage. There are certain players in the Yankees system that are considered almost untouchable because of their potential and because of how valuable young, controllable talent is in today's game. Teams do not like to move those players unless the return is something truly special. And even then, trades can look very different a few years later. A deal that looks great at the moment can end up hurting a team long-term if the young players they traded away turn into stars elsewhere. That is why front offices have to be extremely careful when making big trade decisions involving top prospects. When you start looking at the current roster and the organization as a whole, one thing that stands out is that the Yankees are actually in a pretty solid position in several areas. The pitching staff has depth, the lineup has power, and the farm system has talent that could either help the team in the future or be used in trades if the right opportunity comes along. Because of that, the Yankees do not necessarily need to make desperate moves. They can be patient, evaluate the team over the course of the season, and then decide what adjustments are necessary as the trade deadline approaches. Another interesting conversation that always comes up among fans is how young players perform when they get sent back down to the minor leagues after getting a taste of the major leagues. This can be a very important moment in a player's development. Some players respond extremely well, go back down, make adjustments, and come back even better. Others struggle mentally because they feel like they already proved they belong in the majors. The way a player handles that situation often says a lot about his maturity, his mindset, and his long-term potential. Baseball seasons are very long, and early performances do not always tell the full story of what a player will do throughout the year. A slow start in the minor leagues, or even in the majors, does not necessarily mean a player is struggling overall. Sometimes it is just a bad week. Sometimes it is timing. Sometimes it is adjustments. That is why organizations try not to overreact to small sample sizes, especially early in the season when players are still finding their rhythm and getting comfortable with live game situations again. When you look at the Yankees overall, there's always pressure to win now because of the history of the franchise and the expectations that come with wearing that uniform. Every move is analyzed, every prospect is discussed, and every decision is debated by fans and analysts. That is part of what makes playing for the Yankees different from playing for most other teams. The spotlight is always there, the expectations are always high, and every season is supposed to be a championship season. As the season continues, another topic that keeps coming up among fans is how the team should approach upgrades during the year, especially if the team is already performing well. Sometimes the biggest mistake a strong team can make is trying to fix something that is not actually broken. If the roster is balanced, the pitching staff is performing, and the lineup is producing runs, then making a massive trade just for the sake of making a headline move can actually hurt the chemistry and the long-term structure of the organization. The smartest teams are usually the ones that make very specific moves to fix very specific problems instead of making dramatic changes. Strategy is still a huge part of baseball, even with all the technological advances in analytics that teams use today. Managers have to decide when to use bullpen arms, when to steal bases, when to challenge calls, when to pinch hit, and how to manage the lineup throughout the season to keep players healthy and productive. These decisions might seem small during a regular season game in April, but those same types of decisions become incredibly important in September and October when every game can determine playoff positioning. Another thing that always stands out when you follow a team closely over the course of a season is how important player development really is. It is not just about signing big free agents or making big trades. Teams that consistently compete year after year are usually the ones that develop talent from within their own system. When young players come up and contribute at the major league level while still being under team control for several years, it gives the organization flexibility to spend money in other areas and build a more complete roster. The Yankees have always been known for star power, but many of their most successful seasons also included young players who came through the system and became key contributors. That combination of homegrown talent and established stars is usually the formula for sustained success in Major League Baseball. When a team can develop players, keep them, and surround them with experienced veterans, it creates a strong clubhouse environment and a balanced roster that can handle the pressure of a long season and the intensity of the postseason. One thing that always becomes more important as the season moves forward is roster flexibility. Over the course of a long baseball season, injuries happen, players go through slumps, pitchers get tired, and unexpected opportunities appear for younger players. Teams that have depth and flexibility are usually the ones that survive those difficult stretches. It is not always the team with the best starting lineup on paper that wins, but often the team that has the most depth when things start to go wrong in the middle of the season. Another factor that people sometimes underestimate is confidence. Baseball is a sport that is extremely mental, and when a team starts winning games early in the season, the confidence inside the clubhouse starts to grow. Players begin to believe that they can win close games, come back when they are losing, and rely on their teammates in big moments. That confidence can change the way players approach at-bats, the way pitchers attack hitters, and the overall energy of the team during games. At the same time, young players developing during the season can completely change the direction of a team. Sometimes a rookie comes up and provides energy, speed, defense, or unexpected offense that gives the team a spark. Other times a young pitcher comes up and stabilizes the rotation or the bullpen. These moments are very important because they can solve problems internally without the team needing to make a trade or sign a free agent. There's also the pressure that comes with playing in a big market and for a historic franchise. Every game is analyzed, every mistake is discussed, and every hot streak becomes a big story. Some players perform better under that pressure, while others need more time to adjust to that environment. That is why player development is not just about talent, but also about mentality, preparation, and the ability to handle expectations at the highest level. As the season continues, the front office is always evaluating the team, not just based on wins and losses, but on weaknesses that could become problems later. Maybe the bullpen needs another reliable arm. Maybe the team needs another hitter against left-handed pitching, or maybe they need defensive improvements in certain positions. These are the types of decisions that are usually made closer to the trade deadline, when teams know exactly where they stand and what they need to compete for a championship. And as always in baseball, the most important thing is getting hot at the right time. A team does not need to be perfect in April or May. What matters is improving throughout the season, staying healthy, developing young players, and putting the team in a strong position for the final months of the season when every game becomes more important and the road to the postseason really begins to take shape. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. Shockwaves are beginning to ripple through the Bronx as whispers grow louder around a stunning possibility. Aaron Boone could be on his way out of the Yankees organization. While nothing has been officially confirmed, sources close to the situation suggest that the longtime manager may be preparing to step away, leaving fans and insiders scrambling to make sense of what would be a seismic shift for one of baseball's most storied franchises. The speculation comes amid mounting pressure that has quietly built over recent stretches. Boone, who has often carried himself with composure in the face of criticism, is now reportedly reconsidering his future in the dugout. Some believe the decision could stem from internal disagreements, while others point to the relentless expectations that come with leading a team like the Yankees. Either way, the tone around the clubhouse feels different, tense, uncertain, and filled with unanswered questions. What makes this rumor particularly intriguing is its timing. The Yankees remain a focal point of the baseball world, and any change at the managerial level would undoubtedly send a message. Boone has been a steady presence, guiding the team through both highs and frustrating near misses. His potential departure raises questions about the direction of the franchise and whether a new voice might soon take control. Players, for their part, have remained tight-lipped, offering little more than vague support when asked about Boone's situation. That silence has only fueled further speculation. Around the league, executives are already watching closely, aware that such a move could trigger a chain reaction impacting multiple organizations. For now, everything remains in the realm of rumor. But in New York, where speculation often turns into reality faster than expected, the idea of Aaron Boone stepping down no longer feels impossible. It feels imminent, like a storm building just beyond the outfield walls, waiting for the moment to break. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.